What's up, everybody? If you've seen the title of the thumbnail, you know what this is all about. We're doing Raven's Flock, or in PoE 2, RF, PoE 1, RF, pseudo RF. We are doing it with Cull, so we're going to be activating the Horror's Flight, Culling Strike Threshold, engaged on normal enemies and fairly well on magic and rare mobs as well. And we are doing the cull with the Raven's Flock. Raven's Flock right now is fairly difficult to increase its damage to acceptable levels. Right now, we are not too worried about that in the base. Its DPS is not very high at about 10,000, but with the cull effect, you'll see we do quite well. How we achieve it is quite frankly pretty simple. We are also rocking a Blasphemy aura with Repulsion, and that way Horror's Flight, the Culling Strike, and the Crushing Fear need to come from you to be able to build up the stacks. So the way we get around that is Repulsion, and we link Repulsion with a little bit of lightning damage, so that can trigger Living Lightning, which will then trigger the Repulsion hit, which will count as you. And even though our Repulsion does nothing for damage, 878, you'll see we actually still achieve our culling effect quite well with our culling setup. We don't have too much culling strike threshold, if any, actually down in the tree. We could get some a little bit more. I'm not too really worried about that because I still wanted to have acceptable single target damage, which we are doing through Kelari's. So with that being said, let's get to our mapping experience here. I do not necessarily have a map loaded up at this time, and I do not necessarily have a good map, so let's just take a look here. Probably just run this one here, and let's see if we can grab something over in this general direction. Maybe we do some abysses. Let's do some abysses. Let's go to deserted here. Let's actually load up a better fragment. Apologize for not having this loaded sooner. I do not have Arbiter of Ash on this character just yet. We will be doing Arbiter of Ash eventually. So let's just go to the arid plains. You can see here I'm not too far in the league. Still been theory testing a lot of things and just taking my time with it. So we will be taking this boss. Taking this build to some bosses here, which we do have ready and loaded up, and hopefully I can get a compilation added. So you can see here, I can actually just move around. I'm not using any of my skills, and the culling strike is occurring because you can see the living lightning is proccing, which is then allowing us to do a cull off of the repulsion. We are keeping our fear incarnate stacks. So whenever you deal with like a rare, that's all that you need to do is just drop down some of your command skills here. Mad Flight is actually a really good skill. And if you have your Archon of Undeath, you can actually get a couple of them down. And even though it has low tooltip DPS, I swear it's actually doing more, as there's a ton of ravens that can fly through and accumulate hits on a target. So you can see here, these rares just get melted away, and anything else coming in contact into our aura also gets melted away. So very nice way to not necessarily worry about the damage that this RF is doing. As you can see here, again, no skills being used, just walking around, just dodge, roll around. And you can just see here the living lightning and the repulsion, and the RF did its entire job there, pretty much went AFK on that ritual. So I've seen several versions of the build where, again, you can get the RF to do actual damage. I really just wanted to be able to not worry about that, and so I just went with the culling direction. It's a fairly expensive build, I suppose, because of the requirements for the gloves, and eventually we're going to be crafting up some better rings, and we'll have a really good belt with minions, and so the high-end craft on this build can get pretty high. I'm actually using pretty terrible gear. I mean, relative to what you can get on softcore, it's not greatest. This is pretty mid-tier. So, you know, really realistic expectations with, you know, kind of just some of the puzzle pieces that you can get together to achieve, you know, this effect. Now, there's a lot of builds this league that are utilizing, you know, repulsion and being able to come up with, you know, those auto loop builds, auto bombers. So that's really nice. Repulsion, I believe, is probably going to get nerfed into the atmosphere. If they do keep this skill, I'm going to really enjoy playing with it as they release additional skills. I just really like the concept of it, and being able to create these type of on-hit loops works really well with a lot of different setups. So we got a rare right here. Just drop some Kelari deceptions on them, and we can actually do so. As it's actually nice if we do actually spam our skills. I should probably do that, and the reason for that is because we do get Puppet Master stacks, and the Puppet Master stacks do increase the skill speed and the overall damage of the Raven's Flock as well. So it helps us also get the Archon of Undeath activated, which you can see once it's activated like we are right now. Our character's kind of glowing that abyssal color. We do a lot more damage, and we have the ability to have a lot more living lightning around us as well, double the amount of living lightning, so the culling effect actually happens much faster, which is really nice. That being said, I do want to craft the Archon of Undeath. Has no, you know, recovery period on the amulet, but it has 50% reduced effect. That will allow the Archon of Undeath to be up all the time. And maybe we can actually just strictly use Mad Flight and get Mad Flight to be our primary damaging skill. But as everybody knows that's played the Disciple, the Kelari's Brutality and Deception is just a great skill. You know, they haven't nerfed it. They actually kind of buffed this class this past season, which has been really interesting to see. I'm sure they're going to go over their balance changes soon, and I imagine Disciple of Rashta will get tapped in some way, probably the defensive node that everybody seems to take. GGG doesn't typically like there to be you know, kind of one set option that you kind of feel forced to take. And as powerful as it is, you know, the 60% armor or what have you, or the armor based on your energy shield, about 60% at these levels, it's just extremely strong and makes the spellcasting class feel really nice. And it's still a hardcore darling. I think it's like the third most played class or second most played class behind some of the favorites like the martial artist and generally in this league. But, as you can see, again, just kind of having fun with this right now. I am going to loot. I'm going to kind of play this map normally. As anybody who's played RF and PoE 1, it's not really the fastest build. I can say that about this build as well. And we got a Divine. There we go. We love a good tink. But, you know, hey, it gets the job done. It's pretty smooth. You know, it allows us to walk around and have that kind of RF experience and just see the enemy's health start draining around us. Eventually, you know, our living lightning will stack up, and look at that. They're just going to go through and they're just going to clean up. Right? And they're just going to proc off of themselves. And you do kind of have to occasionally throw in some hits to get that living lightning procced again. But then once it starts proccing off of itself on the repulsions, because, you know, we've got lightning attunement, then you can kind of just walk around like I'm doing here. It's pretty simple. So, yeah, overall, I really like it. It's solid. We actually had this culling stuff for a little while now, since towards the beginning of the league. For my guild, we were rocking it on my ritualist as a, you know, like a rarity color. But unfortunately, my guild, you know, we've played a lot of solo and expedition. The color didn't really work on expedition too well, so that's another thing that brings me to this build. If they have runic ward, the culling effect doesn't work all that well, so kind of another reason why I did want to have kind of still more of a single target setup with the command, and not just focus completely on the aura like I know some builds are out there doing. But the aura is probably, you know, equally as effective as a lot of those builds, just because of that nice culling effect that occurs. So, that being said, you know, we're going to go ahead and potentially find a boss. I keep running around in circles, which is Yeah, we're enjoying ourselves here, so just ignore my gameplay, play how you want to play, but just, again, kind of more of a build concept and so forth, so. And so we do have an offering, this pain offering. It's the reason why you see that cleric running around. Cleric doesn't do anything else for us other than just give us a little extra damage on our muster support skill, and then also allows us to get a little extra damage here. So before going into this boss, I'm actually going to give it a few seconds here on this recovery. You have about 5 seconds left, and that way we can go into the boss with our ability to use our Archon pretty quickly. Again, we're going to try to get a better amulet to have Archon of On Death up all the time, or at least without any sort of recovery period. So we're just going to come in here. We're just going to drop the Deceptions. We're going to go ahead and put him on a spike, and we're just going to keep this going. So it's a little bit of a dual boss here. So this one's a lot of fun. Okay, so these ones are just jumping around the whole time. Now we can finally actually do some damage. And wow, gotta love when the beginning of a fight is pretty much just them phasing the entire time. So, alright, there's the bosses. You can see single target is, again, if you play a Disciple, primarily coming from Deception and Brutality. That's where a lot of our damage is coming from outside of the culling setup. But again, that kind of planned it that way. I didn't really anticipate the ring to do a lot of damage until, you know, you actually have a ton of minions or a ton of spirit, and I didn't really just want to go that direction. Just kind of work with what I have here. So I'll just finish up this Abyss. No good drops, unfortunately. Alright, how does our ritual look here? Nothing good here. Let's get a reroll. Nothing good there either. We're just going to offer tribute. Alright, so now for kind of like the portion of the build where we kind of go over the support gems and how this works and how it functions. Again, this is kind of a concept. I'll hopefully be able to take this further and show off you know, better damage and so forth. So got tons of room to grow. So first, Kelari, basically very simple, break armor. Minions are gigantic. They don't reserve spirit, so we just get that for free. Concentrated area, bidding, and Kurgle's leash. The bidding is actually pretty necessary so that you can have really good cooldown, especially when your Archon on Death is up for your Deception, so you can actually kind of like spam these consecutively, because you do want consecutive spams. You kind of don't want to like blend them too much. You want to kind of hit all three uses, and then, you know, both uses, and then all three uses and both uses if you can, because it says more damage per consecutive use, so it has to be back to back up to 300% for the Deception. And for for Brutality, it's also, I believe, 50% more damage here, if I'm not mistaken, on the Eruption. Could be wrong, but yeah, anyways, projectiles split. But yeah, but the Deception, you know, you want to make sure you do have that that 300% more damage. So quite nice. It's 50% each time you cast it. So you have the Spiraling Conspiracy. It's kind of the name of the game. I don't even have enough quality on this, only 3%, so got to quality my staff. But minions are gigantic. It does benefit from this, even though it doesn't reserve spirit. It's very nice. Swift Affliction 2. Swift Affliction 3 does not work for some reason, just because I suppose the whole less than 1 second duration tag that the thing has. So Swift Affliction 2 is a benefit because this is essentially damage over time. And Muster, even though we don't have, I think, again, just like one actual skeleton. Kelari counts as a minion too, and so Muster is working out for us, just barely. And Minion Mastery for +1 level, and Uhtred's Constellation, and this is really nice. So we're not too worried about the cooldown uses, but the 8% more damage for each different skill with the cooldown you have used in the last 8 seconds. So if we actually take a look at this, right? So it's 10,000 here, but let me like just start like spamming. Let me put up, you know, let me put up the offering here. and just kind of spam and let me get my stacks up. So, you know, now it's flashed like 14,000 there, but they got it like 16,000. So, you know, chaos damage over time is not too bad. And it does 5% more per Raven, right? So if you stack up the Ravens, which you can get up to, I think it's like 30 Ravens or so, this bad boy's actually doing damage. You guys saw it. You know, it was able to at least get targets down into culling range when needed, and you know, we stack enough culling threshold where, you know, we actually really don't need to do that. But if we ever did not have enough, then, you know, it'll only take just a second or two of sitting in this order for them to get within culling range. So that's very nice. Mad Flight. I think this tooltip's bugged. It says 16k. I do a lot more with it, so take that with a grain of salt. And just know, because it has the frequent hits, this thing can actually be a pretty powerful generator for repulsion even. So maybe that's where a lot of that's coming from, even though repulsion doesn't do a lot of damage either. So Pain Offering really just as my buff. That's just to get more damage. That does work for our entropy and all of our skills. Withering Presence, we do want to try to increase the duration. I need to get higher levels. I mean, it's only level 17 right now. Getting a really scuffed version of this build, which, yeah, I think is kind of important to show. I mean, if you're ever like in a catch-up phase on your build, or you don't want to spend a lot, hey, you know, this is what you're going to see. So then we've got the Blasphemy. So the Blasphemy is really important for this setup to work. So again, we need to have it with Repulsion. This Repulsion curse count, whenever this hits, it deals physical damage in an area on a cursed target. Whenever that hits, it does count as you when it's on Blasphemy. And so, you know, you got to link that with Lightning, so it does a little bit of lightning damage. I mean, it's doing 130 to 206 lightning damage, but that's all that Living Lightning 2 cares about. Supported skills which cause damaging hits trigger the Living Lightning. And this Living Lightning will come back and trigger the Repulsion. And so that will actually count as a hit. And with enough culling strike threshold from, you know, Horror's Flight and the helmet, and I mean, really that's all I think I have on this build. It's enough to actually, as you see there, take care of all the, you know, the pretty small mobs, as RF would normally do. And yeah, so outside of that, Skelter Cleric, this is just so that we can spike them. Doesn't do anything else for us other than, I guess, Essence Harvest gives us a little bit of mana. So you want to put Last Grass, you want to put Mate Shield on this, and then Convalescence as our, you know, holy crap, we're getting damaged. I don't have life flasks or anything, so, you know, it's really the only way for us to recover. And you know, maybe eventually we can get more spirit on our amulet and a better amulet. This is my amulet that I'm currently working right now. I am trying to increase the quality on this, so just got to throw a few more divvies at this so that I can actually get this to +4 levels of all minion skills. I'll throw another divine at it so I can actually get a high roll on the damage as well. But ideally, you know, you actually want to allocate the new, what is this called? Let me look over here on POB real quick. I forget exactly what that hidden modifier is called, Dominion. Where you're able to essentially, again, have Archon buffs have no recovery period after you lose. So I'm still catching up on divvies, kind of threw all my divvies away on a few builds that ripped pretty quickly. So it's just kind of the way it goes. Sometimes you win some and lose some. So anyways, we do want to get a better amulet. If you can afford it, great. Rings, don't really care about my rings right now. They're just resistances, so I'm not even going to really talk about them. They're just resi rings. The belt, we can actually do a much better belt. I only picked up this belt for like 1 chaos. It's missing a prefix on this, it looks like. But I really only picked it up because it has the increased damage with command skills and the area of effect on it. We don't even care about the movement speed or the maximum life, so we could, you know, try to roll those off and maybe even just get a better belt in general. But use a minion belt, use a mage blood, use a headhunter, do what feels good. The rings, again, we're actually going to try to swap those out for minion rings. So just all in all, we have a lot to go. But the Raven's Flock is really important for the build. We need to have the Zipicato's Soul Core Dominion in here. I went ahead and just went with some maximum energy shield as well because it's a staff. There's not a lot of other great runes. And I went with the level 21. And yeah, so got some more room here. Throw a couple of divvies at it. Maybe hit it with a corruption, get another socket. So room to grow on that. But again, yeah, Horror's Flight. So if you don't know, you have to use an Alder's Legacy to get Culling Strike off of Deathblows and then socket them in here. Hopefully you can get a dual socket like I landed and put in whatever else you need. I'm only using it for fire resistance because my resistances are terrible, just because my belt and my rings are garbage. But it is what it is. The Myris, I got really lucky with the corruption at 112%. You do need to have, I think, like 107%. And you do need to have some of these culling nodes down here if you want to like actually have 100% at all times. I believe with the Horror's Flight, you can achieve 100% through Crushing Fear because this gives you stacks, which increases, the Crushing, not Crushing Fear, but the Fear Incarnate. So this thing gives you, 10% increased Culling Strike threshold. So this will actually make it enough. And so just, a couple mobs and you can be at full 100% pretty much on bad mobs without even getting all of these nodes down here. If you do want to take these nodes, get a, what is it called? A Struggles Scream. I think I've got one of these somewhere. Yeah, use one of these. So what this does, Struggle Scream, is you can have 3 instilled modifiers. So I was like thinking I'd go in this direction, but the Culling Strike is perfectly fine, and I really need minion skills and minion damage on this build, so decided against using this. But if you can find a way to get more damage without, sacrificing your rare slot on your amulet, use this, and then go ahead and get all the cull stuff. So down here, you can actually, I think it's, sorry, F. So here we go. So we've got several nodes like Bounty Hunter. We've got the Finish Them. You've got Cull the Hordes. I'd probably put on Hunting Companion, Bounty Hunter at the minimum, and maybe one other node that you like. Or if you really want to go out, get Cull the Hordes. I wouldn't really worry about Finish Them too much, but Cull the Hordes definitely. So yeah, overall, it's working. I'm having fun with it. It's super scuffed, the gear that I have right now. I have terrible jewels, right? Like just like 1 or 2 minion nodes, like some energy shield. This is kind of the pathing, right? Basically just trying to take minion damage, get these Puppet Master stacks built up. One fun fact, the Raven's Flock, I don't think it crits. Don't see crit affecting it at all. So like all the minions critical damage bonus and critical damage bonus, like this thing doesn't say it crits at all. Mad Flight does. This has a crit chance of 10 with how I have it set up right now. But yeah, so maybe it does and it just doesn't show it in the tooltip. But anyways, if you do want to scale the damage more and actually have better jewels, focus on flat minion damage for Spiraling Conspiracy. So that'll be the direction that I'm going in. Anyways, that's the build. I've been streaming a little bit at the beginning. Probably we'll pick it back up and see where we take it with this later.